It's an eerie sight. Just 26 nautical miles from the suburban sprawl of Southern California is a secluded and entirely different world, Catalina Island. Today, the tiny island town of Avalon is host to downhill and slalom racing events in the Catalina Skateboard Classic. I'm Jim Lampley.
And here we're going to be seeing an event that calls to mind, in certain respects, the Grand Prix of Monaco, similar in the sense that it's a race that takes place through city streets, this beautiful harbor in the background with literally hundreds of boats. Skateboarding is a sport that combines some of the physical elements of skiing and surfing, along with some of the technical elements of auto racing. Let's take a look.
Avalon is a very small town, no more than a square mile in total area. The two races, slalom and downhill, both take place on city streets. The slalom course requires only a straight downhill drop. But the first race you'll see, the downhill, is on a 250-meter stretch of side street that begins with two hairpin turns. Here's a look at the downhill course from a racer's point of view. They get the go signal from a lighted starting gate, then immediately attack the course's two hairpin turns. First, a 135-degree turn to the left, then immediately another 135-degree turn back to the right. As they proceed down the hill, the racers reach a top speed of something close to 40 miles per hour. This is a technical course. The key to victory is to attain the maximum speed through the opening two hairpin turns and maintain a solid line all the way down the hill. But for many racers, the hard part is just staying upright. Now as we get an aerial view of the course, you look at the standings after two runs of the downhill. Each racer makes 3 trips down the hill, and the 2 best times are combined to make up his official overall time. Now here's the man with the fastest run of the day so far. He's in second place. His name is Bob Goldberg, and he was the dominant racer on the skateboard tour last year when he won every downhill race, but he's missed every race before this one this season because he's been in Europe on a promotional tour. He just came back for this race. His overall time, 54.422. He needs something in the low 27-second range in order to improve his overall time. Tucked down, coming down to the finish. And the time is 27.716. It won't help him.
What happened? Well, I was a little squirrely at the top of the course. Got a little cramped up in my legs and just didn't quite maintain the line that's necessary to get a really fine time on this course.
What's the most important single thing you have to do from the top down to get a good run on this course?
Well, the second turns are really off camber, better, a little bit better, 90 degrees probably, and a lot of the racers are drifting out toward the bales. And it makes it probably a make or break turn in the course. You really got to pick a clean line and really hang it in there to approach the first cone really as straight as possible. And unfortunately, that time I got a little squirrely and just blew it.
Okay, our next skater up. The next racer you'll see is Dennis Schufelt. He needs a time of 26 and 161 thousandths of a second to move into first place ahead of Jamie Hart. And if he could come up with a time like that, that would be considerably faster, in fact, 3/4 of a second faster than the fastest time of the day turned in by Goldberg in an earlier round. Professional skateboard racing has been organized for about 2 years. There are a dozen or so of these downhill races during the course of a season, almost all of them in California or Colorado. And there are a handful of racers who are literally making their living in skateboard racing. Dennis Schufelt would like to be one of them. And he reaches the finish in 28.266. That will not be good enough to put him up among the leaders. Now the next man up is Bobby Piercy. Here's one of the really hot young faces in skateboard racing. He's missed most of this season competitively also, because Bobby Piercy spends a lot of his time designing skateboard parks. There are literally dozens of skateboard parks popping up across the United States, especially in Southern California, where Piercy lives and trains. Now, Piercy needs a time of 26 and 749 thousandths of a second to catch the leader, Jamie Hart. Once again, that would have to be faster than the 26.949. That's the fastest time of the day, turned in earlier by Goldberg. And there's the finish. Piercy in the tuck down to the bottom. His time of 27.769 won't put him in the top 3. Here again, another young competitor with a shot at catching the leaders, Obi Jones. And Jones wipes out. It happens to so many of them. A couple of people enjoying the relaxed atmosphere here in the harbor on Catalina Island. It's about a 2-hour ferry boat ride from Long Beach, but it might as well be another world. Now here's the leader in the competition, Jamie Hart. A little earlier I talked to him as he came to work.
As you watch Jamie Hart on his way to a race, you might think that skateboarders, like so many other professional athletes, are now big businessmen and must carry a briefcase everywhere they go. But this is a little different. What do you have there, Jamie?
I have a set of wheels that I'm going to race on today.
So this is, in effect, your pit crew.
Yes, in a sense.
What are the choices that you make with these wheels?
Well, I ride the orange wheels for a wider course. They're stickier. They hold the pavement better.
But they give you less potential speed.
Yes, true. That's
now
true.
These are harder?
Harder, faster, and but they have a tendency to slip out a little bit. So you have to compensate for that.
On this particular downhill course, which wheels?
I'm riding the OJs.
Which are these?
Yeah, which are the orange wheels.
Why? Because of the two big turns?
Yes, yes. I like to hold a tuck through those turns, and these hold the tuck for me.
Then you have some other tools here that take care of the trucks and everything. Is it possible that you can win or lose a race based on the equipment choices you make?
Yes, it is. Very possible. It's happened before. Being
Just as in automobile races?
Yes, yes.
Good luck.
Thank you, thank you.
Jamie Hart is a 26-year-old truck parts dealer who practices on a 3.1-mile stretch of highway on Donner Summit near Lake Tahoe. And we will watch his third and last run in the downhill. Remember, a racer's two best times from his 3 runs down the course are combined to determine his overall standing. And as you watch Hart, see how smooth his style is. He is the leader after 2 runs. He needs a time of 27 and 170 thousandths of a second in order to better his overall time. As he comes through the finish, the end of a good run. I don't think his time is going to be quick enough, however, to help him out. We'll try to get a word with Jamie.
Jamie? I think it was 27.649, which will not improve your time. Did you feel like you had a good run?
I thought it was faster than the other 2.
Just goes to show you can't tell, I guess.
Yeah, hope that'll keep me in there.
What do you think? Do you think it will keep you in there?
Well, we got the best guys to come yet.
John Hudson's still to come.
Yeah, right. He's my biggest worry right now.
Well, here's another man with a chance to catch Jamie Hart. He's Mike Goldman. He needs a time of 26.707, and that would be the fastest time of the day if he could come up with it. Coming through the second hairpin turn. And oh, Goldman loses it into the hay bales. But he's okay. He's going to get up, but just as so many racers have done today, Goldman lost control coming out of the second hairpin turn. You could see the skateboard begin to swivel underneath his feet, and he went straight into the hay bales next to that wall. Now there's only one man left with a chance to catch Hart, the top-seeded racer, John Hudson. I talked to him a little earlier.
John, do you have any kind of routine or preparation that you go through before every race?
Yes. Before my races, I try to get away from the crowd and relax and keep my mind free of any thoughts that might excite me or get me anxious. I try to keep away from the crowd and the other racers. Try to relax is the main key.
How much of it is for your benefit, and is there any element of trying to psych out the other racers? We've seen you kind of go through a ritual on the board before the race begins.
Well, I don't believe you can psych out another racer. I think what happens is you psych yourself out, and the main thing is to try to maintain your own cool, and that's the important thing. I think a racer psychs himself out. Somebody else doesn't psych you out.
John Hudson from Hudson is 23 years old. He is the top-seeded racer because he's won every downhill on this year's circuit. And he needs a time on this run of 27.306 to move ahead of Hart and take a victory in this event. A little afternoon breeze blowing in off the ocean. So the critical factor as this breeze blows up the hill will be for Hudson to get down into his tuck, lessen his wind resistance, and try to hold himself in the down close to that board he's getting. Through the finish, good time, just over 27 seconds, and that should be good enough to win the event for John Hudson.
John. Congratulations, great run.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
You knew that you needed 27.306. Did you feel on your way down the course that you were doing well enough?
Well, I was feeling good in the top part of the course, but when I got into the chute, there was a lot of wind, and I was worried about the wind holding me up, so just tried to hold my tuck in as best as possible.
So victory in the downhill belongs to John Hudson, second place, to Jamie Hart, third place, Bob Skoldberg. We'll be back with the slalom. Catalina Island is both a step away and a step back in time from the neighboring megalopolis of Southern California. It's not at all unusual to see herds of wild animals running free on the island. The vast majority of the land here is owned by the Wrigley family, and they've left it in its natural state. The little town of Avalon was the scene of a tourist industry boom back in the 30s when the casino that sits at the far edge of the harbor was built. It was a time when people would sail over and dock in the harbor to hear big bands led by famous names like Benny Goodman and Tommy Dorsey. For a while, Catalina was the party land of the Pacific, and the casino was packed every night. Nowadays, people take the ferry over from Long Beach for an afternoon or a weekend of pure relaxation. For the crowds that came to these races, the byword was, "Bring your skateboard." And this weekend, the tourists got an extra treat, because during the time away from the races, some of the young devotees of the sport gathered on the town's main street to show off a few freestyle skateboarding tricks. Now we're going to be looking at the women's slalom competition. Slalom is an art of grace and consistency. Two racers are matched side by side, head to head, just as in pro skiing, and each race consists of 2 runs down the course. Speed is important, but it's even more important not to come in contact with the cones that mark the course, because most races are decided by the penalty points that are assessed for hitting cones. 1/10 of a second up to 3 cones in a run, 7/10 of a second for the 4th cone and any beyond it. The cones are spaced 12 feet apart at the top of the course, but they narrow gradually down to only 6 feet apart at the bottom. In slalom, the winners are usually those who can maintain their concentration well enough to make the run smoothly, time after time. This is Deanna Calkins racing in her first professional skateboard event. And this is Terry Brown, who recently won a slalom championship at Long Beach, California. Terry Brown is one of the favorites, Deanna Calkins an outsider. They are the 2 women of the 16 who began in the championship bracket to make it to the final race. Remember, 2 runs in a race. Already, Terry Brown, racing on the right, has hit 2 cones. She seems to have a slight lead, but she hits 2 more cones. Now Calkins is hitting some cones. As they get to the bottom, Calkins hits 2 more. They both hit 4 cones, but Terry Brown came in 96 thousandths of a second ahead of Deanna Calkins, so that will be her advantage going into the second run. Now we look at slow motion of Deanna Calkins as she comes down. The cones are spaced wider apart at the top of the course than at the bottom of the course. That is so a racer can react to the cones more normally as her speed increases coming down the hill. Deanna Calkins, never before having raced in a professional skateboard event, has already surprised everyone here by making it to the finals, and she'll go into the last run less than 1/10 of a second behind. Ready now for the final run of the women's slalom event. This is Deanna Calkins, who just took up skateboarding a few months ago in her first professional competition ever. She's racing against Terry Brown, and going into this last run, Terry Brown has an advantage of 96 thousandths of a second, or just a little bit less than the 1/10 of a second that is issued as a penalty every time a racer hits one of the cones that marks the course. Now they're off. Brown seemed to get a little bit of a quicker start. Smooth start for both women. Now Terry Brown has hit 1 cone. So Deanna Calkins has an advantage if she can maintain that smooth style. Terry Brown hitting another cone. All Calkins has to do now is stay up and not hit any cones. She hasn't hit any yet. As they come through the finish, Deanna Calkins had a smooth, clean run. And regardless of time differential, that ought to be enough for her to win the event.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You don't look as though you expected to win.
Total surprise.
Why?
This is my first race, and all these other girls here, I thought, I'd just maybe have a chance, but oh God, I can't believe it.
Well, throughout the morning's racing, did you start to build some confidence that perhaps you could win?
Yeah, did a lot of praying, psyching myself up, had a positive attitude, And I think I was ready for it, but whatever went, you know.
You were behind before that last heat. Did you notice that your opponent had knocked over some cones?
No, I just kept my eyes about 4 cones ahead of me and tried to keep it clean, you know, not, you know, for speed, just consistency. But, oh man, this is unreal. I can't believe it. Shoot, it's neat.
Now ready for the final race of the men's slalom competition. First run coming up, the man on your screen, John Hudson, who has already won the downhill competition. He's one of the real professionals in skateboard racing, just as in auto racing or skiing. Some of these racers are partially supported by equipment deals and promotional contracts with manufacturers. Hudson is one of them. Here is another, Bobby Piercy, his competition in the slalom final. And many people consider Piercy the king of the hill in slalom racing. Hudson has been the hot man this year, while Piercy has been away from racing for the most part. They take off. Smooth start for both racers, and Hudson on the left has a bit of an advantage as they go down the hill. Now they're picking up speed. Piercy has a bit of a lead, and it's Bobby Piercy who goes under the tape first. Bobby Piercy with an advantage of just over 1/10 of a second against John Hudson. You look once again at Piercy in slow motion. The smooth style, the balance, and mostly the concentration. This is John Hudson, 23 years old, and one of the big stars in the brand new sport of skateboard racing. One of the few who makes his living as a skateboard racer. Here's another, Bobby Piercy, makes his living both as a skateboard racer and as a designer of skateboard parks. They get ready for the last run in the men's slalom. Piercy's advantage after one run was 102 thousandths of a second. He needs to be very careful not to hit any cones. Hudson on this side, Piercy on the far side. You can see how close they are. Now it's Hudson taking a slight lead as they get down toward the tape. As they go under, you see that John Hudson hit one cone, so that settles it. Bobby Piercy has won the championship. Hudson had a slight advantage on that run, but because of the one cone he hit, Piercy is the overall winner. Now, as we look at their run again, think about their consistency. Each slalom course had 37 cones. These two men raced 8 times each under the dual format of the championship. 8 times 37 equals 296 total cones they passed, and of those 296, Hudson hit 2, Piercy hit 1.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Consider that an upset at all? He hadn't lost many races this year.
He was the man to beat this year. I've been putting a lot of time in my surfing lately, and I'm producing these skateboards, Turner summer skis, so I haven't had a chance to race as much, but now I'm back onto it. I'm going to stay into it the rest of the year.
It's a lot like surfing in certain ways, huh?
Really a lot.
Listen, you making money off of this? A few guys are making a living, I understand.
Well, I design skateboard parks also for a living, so between the two, I'm doing all right.
You think this sport is going to grow rapidly now?
Definitely. With all the interest that television's taking and parents, and the safety with the safety equipment into it, it's a safe sport now. You can actually fall down and get up and recover.
You didn't fall down at all today. Great job.
Thank you very much.
Well, like surfing or skiing, this is a sport of loose, high enthusiasm. So I'm Jim Lampley saying so long from the Catalina Skateboard Classic.
I needed one so bad!
Skateboarding, a fascinating sport, and boy, it just continues to grow.